Okay, so we are going to finish up chapter 6A, and we just had a little very small section that we needed to finish on this part, but we needed to talk about variation, okay? Variation is basically how spread apart your data is. So you can see that this little section right here, there's not very much distance here. So this data is very close together. An example of this would be if you had a class that scored pretty much the same grades on a test. There's going to be very little variation there. If you have moderate variation, your data is more spread apart. So you might have had people scoring maybe within the ranges of, let's say, 60 to 80. Okay, so we have some spread apart data, but not as much as this last one, which would be a high variation. And this is going to have data that spread really far apart. So for instance, if you had test scores that were between 10 and 80, then that data would be really spread apart. Okay, so this variation is just talking about how spread apart your data is. So example 7 says, how would you expect the symmetry and variation to differ between times in the Olympic marathon and times in the New York marathon? So, well, what do we know about the Olympics, right? We know that people in the Olympics that are running a marathon are going to be very talented. And they're going to be the top of the top, okay? So their times are going to be close together. Their finishing times are going to be really close together. Because if they weren't close together, then anybody could be in the Olympics. So these are these are going to be the elite. So their variation should be very close together. Their scores should be very close together in this little section. Okay, but anybody can sign up to run the New York Marathon. Now, it's still tough, but you could even have people that stop and walk for a little bit, right? So their times are going to be a lot more spread out. Their finishing times will be spread out. And so when we talk about their variation, we're going to be looking at something that starts and is a little bit flatter because the data is spread out more. So like our section that has results would be a bigger distance in between. Okay, so what does that mean? The people that are in the Olympics are going to have low variation, and the people that are in the New York Marathon are going to have a more high variation. It may be true that they have a moderate variation, but they're definitely going to have more of a variation than the people that are in the Olympics. Okay, so the Olympic people are going to have a low variation compared to your people that are in your New York Marathon, which are going to have a high variation. I'm going to say high to moderate. Okay, because it could be the other, just depending on who shows up that day, how much their times are going to be. Okay, so that is the end of 6A. I'm going to do 6A support today as well. And in 6A support, I'm going to show you how to use your calculators. I'm going to show you how to use your calculators to find the mean, median, and mode. So we'll work the problems both ways. So let me pull that up real quick.